Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 137 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I'm your host, Mark Harris. And that was an absolutely horrible loss by the Sun Devils on Saturday night against Mississippi State. Just a complete kick in the nuts, a performance that wasted many really good games from a handful of players. And just a few moments at the end really just won, and then a really lackluster first half that doomed you. And now everything with this team is in question. Yeah. All right. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. Let's dive into this. As those of you who watch the show regularly know, I usually don't record so early in the week. I usually just procrastinate, honestly, and get it done on like a Wednesday. Getting this one on Monday afternoon, I just need to get this out of my system. You can't lose like that. You can't lose like that to a team that Mississippi State is clearly improved. And Brennan Thompson's a good player, obviously. They are a better team than they were last year, but they're gonna get killed in some of these games in the SEC this year. They are, and so we can I didn't want to leave this game win or loss for ASU having to talk about Mississippi State's improved, and we need to hope they go 6-6 this year so this performance doesn't look as bad. But here we are. So I'm just going to start out with the play that just swung the game. And you can't bring a safety blitz there. You can't. There's a lot of, Monday morning quarterbacking the game and all this. And some people are saying they should have gone for it on fourth down instead of kicking the field goal late. Some people are saying, the play calling with those 3 runs was bad. And there's some reason to go there. And, people. I heard some play calling concerns in the first half. I don't agree with those. I guess my point is it's 3rd and 9. I know Dillingham said today a blitz and a sack there wins the game. It doesn't actually win the game. They still would have had a 4th and long. And with this, how this game is played out, you have to make them go down the field. It really comes down to that play. You cannot bring a safety blitz there. That was worse than the Texas one, because at least with the Texas one, Quinn Ewers had to make a perfect throw to beat you, and he did. So, Thompson was wide open. He just ran a freaking post. It sucks because in that second half, there were tangible signs of this is some good stuff. When you leave a game, let me pull up the game cast. When you leave a game and you have 2 guys rush for each 105 and 110, both 5 yard, roughly about 5 yards per carry for both those guys. That was so I was so close to being this is just such a good win for this program, and being able to flush away a bad first half with a great second half and take them down. And it all got blown up in that on a 3rd and 9. That's the worst part. You had to stop them 2 more times. That's it. And they didn't have any timeouts too. So if they had completed some, check down and you tackle the guy in bounds or whatever, then they're rushing, that's the worst part about it. The fact that they had so little time, even if they had gotten into field goal range, and Mississippi State does have a good kicker, but make the college kicker make a extremely important kick, I look like we can. Dillingham said I saw in his press conference like, oh, I wish there was cover two there. Like, this cannot be something that continues. And I mean, it just cost you a game, and it like the big picture thing here is it kind of cost you more than just the game, right? It cost you vibes. It cost you the energy of everyone being on the same page. And what it cost you was now people are from your own fan base are in the, oh, same old ASU, right? That's what it cost you. And I'm pretty sure I'll be at the Texas State game on Saturday, and I'll talk about that game towards the end of the episode. But like, I don't want to hear any talk about like, oh, we need to support the guy. Like, just go and beat Texas State and forget about the freaking crowd. If you beat Texas State convincingly, like you should, then the crowds at the rest of the year won't be as much of an issue, or at least in the near future, right? Like, the TCU crowd will be fine. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that when 3 out of 4 quarters of football this year, halves of football have been very disappointing. And the one half that did look good, you still blew it in the end with just a dumb play call. That's what sucks about this game is like, this wasn't a situation where you got like pushed around by an SEC team or, like, oh, they had all these like trick plays that beat you and all this. Like, no, like Leavitt was terrible in the first half. It wasn't play calling. I know there's concern of like, oh, he's throwing to Tyson too much. Those two throws to McLean, like McLean was wide open on both of them, or not wide open, but open enough. And Leavitt just sailed the ball both times. And like, I think that just threw him off for that first half. And then, I mean, his interception of the first half was hardly even his worst play. I was kind of happy when he threw that pick because at least it put Mississippi State way in bad field position. Leavitt also missed a read on a third and 5, and he like jammed it to Tyson, who got like a yard, and then but they had a running back coming out the other side of the backfield that would have been a first down. So like, I'm not really into blaming the coordinator, into blaming Arroyo for this game. I think that his play calling was fine, and I understand why they called the game the way they did in the second half. Like, they were running the ball so well that like it worked. It got them, even if you're upset about them running it 3 times, I could be convinced either way, but ultimately I kind of lean on like, make them use their timeouts and run the ball. And like, I don't mind kicking the field goal there. I really don't. Like, it would have been great if you got the touchdown, but I don't have an issue kicking the field goal there. Obviously, like, maybe you run a different type of run play, but to me, it really comes back to, there's 2 things in this game, and the reason you lost, it was Leavitt specifically did not play well enough in the first half. He just didn't. And I'm sure he's had I don't want to pile on or anything. I'm just trying to be sober with my analysis. Like, he played very badly in the first half. Second half, I honestly thought up until that final pick at the end of the game, which that was a really bad pick. I at that point, like, I don't know. I didn't think we were going to win that game anyway, but whatever. I thought he played well when asked upon in the second half, which wasn't much, but he had a huge third and 8 completion to Tyson. He had some rushing plays. He hit Tyson for the touchdown. Like, I think that's encouraging. Like, there was a lot of encouraging stuff from the second half, and that, like, okay, this team can get off the mat. They can run the ball. We found Kanye Udo. He's stepping in. Rayleigh Brown looks as advertised, right? The offensive line can look really good. The defense can when they're clicking, like, they can really get teams off the field, right? Like, in all, the defense was not the reason you lost this game. It was the reason for the final, punctuation of the nail. but I don't really think it was the reason you lost this game. They were lucky to be at 17 points for – when did Mississippi State score the touchdown that came on the chop block? Or that's a tough – like I'm not going to sit here and be like an expert on that play and be like, oh, that was definitely a chop block, but it sure looked like a kind of what a chop block would look like. So it was 2 minutes into the second quarter was the touchdown to Thompson. They went scoreless for basically the whole second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, and then just a terrible play call on that third to a 58-yarder too. Like they had so much room to go to even get in field goal range. So just like make Shapen actually beat you. Don't bail him out by giving him a free guy running across the field. And so now this is twice in the last 3 games that ASU has played where they get way too aggressive late when a quarterback needs to pick, 9 yards and 13 yards in the Texas game. And it's just really, that's a really frustrating end to it because you had it won. Now you didn't actually have it fully won, but I don't know, man. I'm glad this is just one game, and I was telling people that I'm glad that like Florida lost because it kind of shielded you from some of the national like criticism or whatever. But that was just brutal, man. And it falls on Dillingham. Like Dillingham has now been outcoached for 2 consecutive games. He admitted it in the NAU game. He admitted that Wright outcoached him, and then in this game, like. He wasn't getting outcoached, until the 2-minute mark, and then he got outcoached in the final key portions of that game at the end, and mostly on the defensive side. Like it needs to be that it can't happen again, and that falls on the head coach. So obviously, it falls on Brian Ward as well with that play call, and I can understand a blitz. But I can't understand a safety blitz there where you are leaving a portion of the deep end of the field just open. And if you wanted to bring like a linebacker up the middle, like, okay, I can live with that. That makes a lot more sense than be like, oh, let's, have one safety back there. Like, it's just a bad decision. And these guys are getting paid a lot of money to make good decisions there, or at least okay decisions. And, like even let's just say ASU won that game and 20 to 17, let's say they miss a field goal. We wouldn't be like, oh, like we're awesome. Like, no, it's like, oh boy, like we still have some issues to correct. Right. But now you have all that and you have the loss on top of that. And so, that's the issue with this game is your margin for error for having a good season now, because I'm sorry, I'm not like, it feels like this team is going to go 8-4 or 7-5 now. And for this individual year with the returning players you have with Levitt back and Jordan Tyson and a defense that like is decent, right? It's not, if you just don't like send safety blitzes and expose guys in the open field against the guy, that's the other really frustrating part about this is Thompson had already burned you in this game. So you have to know that like this dude is really fast, number 0 on Mississippi State. And if you let him get wide ass open, he will cook you. And he did again. And so that's a really frustrating part about this too. And by the way, Robinson, who I don't totally blame for that last play, but the series before when Mississippi State punted and gave the ball back to ASU, Robinson got cooked on a deep pattern, and he just got overthrown. And so if you're a defensive coordinator, you have to see that. You have to see that. And I'm not even saying you have to bench Robinson because, like, I don't know exactly, like, with the coverage and, like, part of that is just because – one, he didn't play it well enough, but also there wasn't a safety there to help him out. So that, like, I come back to that more, honestly, because, like, for as bad as Levitt did play in the first half, and I'll get to it. Like I've spoken about that a little bit, but that was, I mean, his first half was awful. But like all of that had been in the past, and you were up 20-17 with a 3rd and 9, and they had no timeouts. And so this idea that like, oh, we're gonna win the game, we're gonna be aggressive, like, no, they are the ones who have to pull the play out of their ass. They're the ones who have to be aggressive. You, like, I know that watching prevent sucks as a fan. I get it. Like prevent defense, like, and it has lost teams game before. There's never a guaranteed way to do this stuff. Okay, like I get it. We're all talking about it after the fact. But this wasn't a situation where they had like 3 timeouts. It wasn't. It also like it wasn't a tie game either. Like they had to make a kick. They had to get into field goal range. They were not in field. They were on their own 42. They had to get like 20 more yards with no timeouts. So, I mean, Brian Ward, like this one falls on you, man. And it falls on Dillingham by extension. Because as we're seeing, like Dillingham is still a young coach. That's something that came to me at the end of this game. Like he kind of got away with some bullshit last year in the closing games category. The Texas State game was not closed out well. It didn't surface as much, but the Bobcats got one more chance because the drifting back and chucking up in the air thing, it didn't fully work out, and it didn't end up mattering. BYU, same thing happens. I'm so eternally grateful that I was in the stands for that play and could tell that Retzlaff's Hail Mary toss was going to be short. But that, like, you gave them another chance. And so that game ended up finishing in a way closer way than it should have. And, like, we're just seeing this stuff with Dillingham. And so the hotel comment thing, like, I feel like he's just got to learn. Like, you can be interesting as a head coach, but I feel like sometimes he tries to win the press conference, and we got to do this, and like just be like Mr. Personality. And I don't know. You don't need to upset a fan base. And I did think, like, I still think that, like, it was taken out of context, and like people have to understand that like teams travel with like 160 people and all these things, but it completely broke contain. And it got into like the Barstool crowd, and it just became like a national talking point of something that it was just unnecessary. And so like I don't want to like I'm more critical of how he coached the game and allowed the 3rd and 9 blitz to happen than, because it's just so unnecessary. Like you were the better team at that like in the course of how that game was flowing. They had to make a play. You made it way too easy for them to make a play. So ultimately, that's my biggest issue with Dillingham in regards to this game. But I do think that like adding extra fuel to the fire, like I don't want to hear any funny little jokes about like Baylor when we go play them 2 weeks from now. And thank God that game is going to be a 4:30 game, because I have zero interest in watching not zero interest, but I just don't think that it helps ASU to go play like a noon Central Time game. So, who even know, like what, like I'm worried about that game. I was worried about it already, but like that's going to be a tough game. I'm glad Baylor's defense just isn't good. And hopefully that doesn't change by the time we play them, in 2 weeks. But yeah, it really just comes back to that one play, and it's so frustrating because ASU's now out of the top 25, deservedly so. I don't have any, like, they have not played like a top 25 team this year. Like, there's just absolutely no reason for them to be that that high. And now it's just like, now the opportunity for you to have a truly like good season is so much more minimized. It's because you have this loss. And so if you go 6-3 in the Big 12 and you're kind of tangentially in it at the end of the year, okay, and you don't make the Big 12 championship game, which it seems like you don't look as good as Utah and Texas Tech right now and Iowa State. You just don't. So maybe you will. Like I'm not. This isn't the season is over, but the path to do what you set out to accomplish this year is much more difficult. The margin for error is so much less. And like I mentioned, like the familiar feeling that the fan base has experienced, like, oh, like it's same old ASU, and like we always blow it, and like this as a coach, like these kind of big picture things, like that's kind of the thing that upsets me is like honestly, like with Sam Leavitt, like he was bad. Like again, I'm going to stress, like he was bad in the first half. The overthrowing of balls, the just general shakiness, I guess. He just wasn't good in the first half. And by the way, ASU got lucky with how to get that 51-yard field goal at the end of the half. Because that was a Hail Mary. And then Leavitt got cracked by the defender. I mean, Dillingham and him did not manage the clock well at the end of that half. And getting that 51-yard field goal, like that was so enormous to get in the half. You're down 17-3 because then it's like, okay, like we get the ball back, we can score a touchdown, which of course they did. And then that whole second half, that's what makes this game hurt so much is like you totally stole momentum back. And then you just blew it with just a stupid play call at the end. I can't get over that. And but with Leavitt, like I'm not gonna do the whole like, oh, like he's totally bad now. Like no, like I think that he'll settle into the season as it goes along. We've seen enough from him, and his athleticism is still a huge part of his game too. That I don't look at him and be like, oh, like he's going to be this bad the rest of the year. Like, no, he won't. Like I just expect him to play well as the season progresses, but that may not be enough. Like that may not be enough to go 9-3. You know, that's what I did not want to be 2 games into the season and already be going like, well, I hope we can get to 9-3. I hope we can have a repeat 7-2. I was always hoping to go 7-2 in the Big 12, but in the context of going 10-2 and not 9-3. And yeah, I just this is there's a puncture of the balloon type feeling. Like it just, I don't know. And I think people will go to, oh, they lost Scattaboo, and like, yes, that's a thing, but we also just rushed for 251 yards and had 2 guys rush for over 100 yards in that game. So sure, like there are some things like maybe Scattaboo scores on that final sequence by the goal line, but we always knew we weren't going to have Scattaboo this year. He was going to be gone no matter what. And when you have Rayleigh Brown and Kanye Udo both running for 100 yards, it's hard for me to be like, oh, like Scattaboo. Like I just can't really go there. Like Scattaboo isn't the one overthrowing Malik McClain on the first drive of the season and missing Harpole running streaking wide open down the middle of the field as well. So I just don't really think that's the real reason. Like it just comes down to like Leavitt just has to play better. And again, I think he will, but like it's just very clear. Like the first half was on Sam Leavitt. So that like I expect Leavitt to improve as the season goes along. He's shown us enough that like he has proven that. That like I just think he'll be good. Like he may not be like as good as we want him to be, and all this and like this in terms of winning a Heisman. Like I think you can kiss that goodbye. Like I just this game will be remembered and it will be brought up, and he would basically have to just be like absolutely incredible for the rest of the year, and to build up enough, wiggle room for he he had one bad game type of deal. No, like forget about all that. My Jordan Tyson Politnikov prediction actually might come true. So one good thing. I mean, Jordan Tyson looks really good. That third down drop he had was tough. That was a tough play, but it's hard for me to really criticize him. I thought some guys on the defense really played well, like Clayton Smith with 2 sacks. Keyshawn Elliott was everywhere. He is a great player. I thought Keith Abney, you didn't really hear from Keith Abney this game, and that's a compliment, right? That is a compliment. Safeties, not a good game for Rouser and Elliott, Rouser and Alford. But part of that was because they didn't get put in a good position. They did not get put in a good position on that final drive. So it's just, I had a nervous feeling about this game all of last week. And I kind of just overcame the nervousness by just accepting, there's a chance ASU could lose this game to Mississippi State. There is a chance. I fully, accepted that going into the game. The first half, I was like, oh my God, we could get blown out. Water met its level. You take a late lead and then you just blow it. And it's just absolutely brutal. And so I hope the team can respond. I've heard some we can still run the table in the Big 12 and it's like, man, you can think what you want to think, but I can't be a responsible, informer about the program or whatever. Just I don't think you can go look at the rest of the season and be like, everything's on the table. It's like, no, man, they really need to fix some things. And it's possible. I don't think it's impossible, but we can't it's just got to be focused on how do we beat Texas State? How do you look good beating Texas State, by the way? If we come out of this Texas State game and I hear any sorts of talk of a win is a win, and they're 2-1, and so they can, everything's still ahead of them, and all this stuff. No, man, you need to look good beating Texas State. Okay, their defense is terrible. They've given up. They gave up 36 last week and then 27 the week before. You better hit 40 points, and you better win. I don't know. It would be great to win by 3 touchdowns, 17 points at least, and just have there not be I don't want to be really that stressed watching this game, but I think I will be, because so far things just haven't come together the way they should. And I'm going to stay should. I don't think all the hype with Leavitt was totally unfounded. It was based on what we saw last year, right? And some of that was scatterboo, but some of it, a lot of it wasn't. A lot of it was him just making plays. And so he it's tough. I don't know how much his accuracy is going to improve, but the thing is he was so bad in that first half and just missed guys. And just wasn't seeing everything either. It was the inaccuracy and just not seeing things. I think that can be amended as the season goes along, but it's tough when you learn the lesson, but the loss still counts, right? I heard, there was some talk of this team showed grit, this team, all this stuff. And that is true. They did show grit. They did when you come back and score 20 or 17 unanswered points in the second half, 20 throughout one part of the game, then yes, you did show some grit to come back, and then you just blow it with that third down play. That's just it's unforgivable, honestly. And so those two things have to be shored up. And I'd rather, I think like, I get that there are times in the game where you want to be aggressive defensively. Like I can live with that. And you notice, like I haven't really brought up that first drive too much. Like I can kind of live with Mississippi State jumping out in a great atmosphere, and you have your scripted plays, and like that first drive, like I was like, okay, like that sucks, but whatever. Like we can bounce back from giving up an early touchdown. Like that kind of thing happens all the time. The other one to talk, like that was a really good throw, and like you know what, maybe it was a chop block, maybe it wasn't. I absolutely despise when my team, a team that I'm rooting for, gets scored on. There's a flag. It looks like it's coming back, and then the refs just pick up the flag. To me, like throwing the flag there and then deciding, oh, actually it wasn't a chop block is worse than just not throwing a flag. And I know that may be like incongruent or whatever, but that's just how I felt. And it sure looked enough like a chop block. It would have been great for that to be called. We don't know how this game would have gone, all that. I try not to make that a big part of this game, but it's just, that's the thing. Like it's just really tough to have a play like that because it just punctures so much. And this is something like there have been a few media members or people who follow the program that I saw on social media. And if you're an ASU fan, like be very judicious with your social media intake this week, because it's just going to be bad. There's no going around it. Like it's just going to be bad. This is why my account doesn't start shit. I don't make bets. I don't talk endless crap all off season because I have no idea how this game's going to go out. And so that's just how I operate. But I saw just this tone of like, oh, it's only week 2. It's a good position that ASU is like, even that teams are storming the field against us. It's like, what are we doing? Like, why are we trying to cope with it in that way? The only cope that you can have with this game is that it's a non-conference game, and technically speaking, everything is still in front of them with the Big 12. That's it. Like, that is it. I don't want to hear, oh, they show grit coming back in the second half, or or this idea that you can't be too critical, you can't overreact because it's week 2. No. If you're being really upset right now as an ASU fan, you're not overreacting. You're not being irrational. You're being rational. The rational thing is to be irate at how this game played out. Okay? Because this isn't, if this were like next year, right? Or who knows, like a year where you just, who knows what's going to happen, right? Maybe we'll be decent. Maybe we'll be like whatever. But like this wasn't that year. You can't be blowing a game like this year when you have all the returners back. When you have good players on this team. Jordan Tyson looked the part. Keyshawn Elliott looked the part. I mean, Clayton Smith, it wasn't the most consistent pressure, but when you leave a game with 2 sacks, you look the part. Levitt athletically, he looks the part. The offensive line, for the most part, looked the part. Keith Abney, I mentioned, you didn't see much of him this game. You know why? Because he's a good corner. He looked the part. I mean, the run defense, CJ Fight, he didn't show up all in the stat sheet, but when Mississippi State runs it 30 times for 66 yards, your run defense looked the part. So there was some of the concrete on paper things that we liked about this team have come to fruition. And yet Levitt just playing badly, which again, I don't know how long-term that's going to be, but it bit you in this game, right? That's the thing. It bit you in this game. And so I don't want to be looking back if we go 8-4 this year and be like, oh man, we could have finished in the top 25 if we didn't lose that dumb game at Mississippi State. And it's well, you did, the game counts. And so the game, the flow of the game didn't feel like the BYU game from 4 years ago at BYU, because that game was worse just because of how unprepared ASU appeared to be as a team for the noise at BYU. They had like 15 penalties. It was just a disaster. This game, like I honestly thought like they handled the noise fairly well. I believe they probably had like one or two false starts. I mean, maybe the noise got to Sam Levitt, right? But like in a slight defense of Dillingham, like he can coach Levitt all this stuff. Like he has to make the throws, right? If the right play is called, he has to get the ball to the open guy. You know, that's the thing that like. That's why like I'm not jumping on Marcus Arroyo too much for this game, because I thought the plays were there, and that like I don't really have an issue with how they called the game in the second half. Like it was working. So, like anyway, it's just going back to my point of like how some fans are reacting. Like, yeah, people are going to be pissed if you lose a dumb game like that to a team that's probably going to go like 5-7 this year. And I really hope that Mississippi State goes like 7 and I don't know. If they can go 6-6, you take that, because then this loss just doesn't look quite as bad. This was a terrible loss for like the Big 12 rep. I don't really care about that much. Like once the Pac-12 left, like I don't have this like loyalty to the Big 12 of like, oh, we need to show them like no, like I don't care. Like I just care about how this affects ASU individually. I don't care about the conference stuff. I'm hoping that college football reconfigures itself, in 2030, and there's just a 50-60 team super league or whatever it is, and ASU is a part of that, and I don't have to worry about the Big 12 anymore. Like I don't care, but from the outsider perspective, like this was bad for the Big 12, and it was because ASU completely blew it. And that's a really tough way to lose. And the thing is, we didn't have a loss like this last year. Not that like ASU didn't have losses, obviously, but the Texas Tech game was not like this. Because let's be honest, going into that Texas Tech game, you had already banked the 3-0 non-conference start. You knew Texas Tech was pretty good, and you fall behind, but you're never totally out of it. So it was kind of a respectable effort to like not totally give up type of deal, but whatever. It just didn't work out. The Cincinnati game, again, like 9 a.m. start on the East Coast. You're with a backup. Like most fans, I'm sure, like you expect to win, but like, who knows? Like it's a backup, and it played out like that. And then Texas, like, yeah, it's a playoff game. You're playing like, in my opinion, the second best team in college football last year. Like, okay. Obviously you wished you had some opportunities to win that game, but it didn't happen. So anyway, like there was no loss where it's like, oh my God, we just completely blew it to a team that like I think we're better than. I don't think you can, like, if you walk away from that game being like, oh, Mississippi State was clearly the better team. Like that's not even me being like upset. Like the Mississippi State is clearly a better team than they were last year. And they've hit on some transfers, and good for them. Like I will be rooting for them to like just be respectable this year. But I also don't think you can walk away from that game just being like, oh, like they're like 100% the better team over ASU. It's like I just don't like, I don't know, because like again, a lot of these were like Levitt just missing throw. He just missed some throws, and I thought the protection was fine. So he has to take some blame. I'm not going to get into like, oh, like, when you're like doing endorsement deals and signing, like, you know what? Like that's part of being good. And I'm okay with him making money off his name and doing a Powerade endorsement. And I just like all of that stuff. Like, I don't think that's why he was bad. I think he was bad just because he had a bad day. And that's the biggest thing. Like if he just doesn't play that badly in the future, then ASU will just have a much better chance to win games. Like because we know that this team can run the ball at least a decent level. So Yeah. Anyway, but like, yeah, I went on a tangent there, but this idea that like fans, we have to like treat it with like kid gloves and be like, oh, like they can still win the Big 12, and oh, it's a tough road game, and any win on the road is difficult, and why are you overreacting after 2 games? Like that's just such BS, man. Like, give me a break. Fans understood what a critical year this was, and what a year that like the opportunity was there for them just based on the roster, and you just have to play better than that as a team in total. But in really, like, in the first half, you have like Dillingham has to make sure the team they can't come out like that in future games. They just can't. So hopefully this serves as a wake-up call. I don't know. Like, I'm just not going to be like Mr. Positive after a game like that. I just can't. And I wasn't like, if you listened to the show last week, it's not like I went into this game predicting, oh, like they're going to blow them out. Like I saw that in some corners of our media entering this week, that ASU was just going to blow out Mississippi State. Are you like, what did you watch in week 1 that indicated that ASU was just going to roll over Mississippi State? I predicted ASU to win 27-24. Obviously that prediction didn't come true, but like the essence of my prediction kind of came true. Like, yeah, it was a back and forth game that, like, and like, heck, if Sam Levitt hits those throws to McLean on that first drive of the series, like maybe ASU does win 27-24, like what do we like? So, but to just end like you got to protect yourself as a fan in all sports, right? I'm wearing a Mariners shirt. Guess what? They are on track to make the playoffs, and they had a good weekend against the Braves. It's not over until it's over. It's not set in stone until it's official. Like, they could easily fall out of the playoff mix, right? That's why I don't bet on my teams. So what? Fan how you want to fan, but just like going into a game and being like, oh yeah, we're in that context of last week. Like I just like. I try to like just be honest, and like there was nothing about that NAU game last week that made me think, oh, they're just gonna kick the crap out of Mississippi State. Like, no. So yeah, tough. It's tough. It's really brutal. It's a really bad way to lose. It's a really bad way to lose because you had it felt you completely stolen momentum back, and then you just boof, it's gone, and you lose. It reminds me, I talk about my Seahawks fandom, and I'm so glad that I was out on Canyon Lake yesterday and without service to not have to deal with the Seahawks loss yesterday. But in the Russell Wilson's rookie year, they lost a divisional round playoff game to the Falcons, in which they were up. I think they took a 28-27 lead with like 30 seconds left. Then Matt Ryan just goes boom, like 2 15-yard completions. They hit a field goal. Or no, they don't actually. Pete Carroll freaking iced him, misses a field goal. Then he makes the next one. It's over. And it crushed me as a high schooler. I just never thought this game was over. So, but I kind of hate that as a fan. I hate there's so many times where you think that you're so close to winning and then you can't get it done. And so, yeah, I don't want to hear, and now this is kind of off of the actual game. I think I mentioned, like, you have to get more wide receivers involved. Arroyo tried to do that, but when your quarterback just overthrows guys, like, I can't blame Arroyo for that. So like Levitt just they need to give him some early, like, easy throws early on. Maybe just have him take a few like curl routes to Hamilton or McLean, and just kind of have him settle down and kind of feel more comfortable with the other guys in the offense. So that needs to be fixed. I expect Sam Levitt to just play better. If he really struggles like this, then like, okay, any predictions we have about the season are out the window. But I'm not ready to bail on Sam Levitt big picture. Like, I just don't think that that's wise. So anyway, and I don't. Like I think this defense is good enough that you don't need to be like, oh, we got to go aggressive, Like you have good enough players. And that's what they showed the entire second half. Like they clamped down on Mississippi State in the second half. And sure, like Shapen had a completion or two in that drive, and like, yeah, like it would have been great. But again, with the time, so I'm not getting into the end of the game again, other than how much of a disaster it was and how Ward and Dillingham handled it. So horrible. I mean, it's horrible, and I'm not going to say like, oh, we're definitely screwed of our long-term goals this year, but it feels like it, man. Like, let's be honest. Like, it really feels like this team is going to go 8-4, 7-5, and it'll just lose a lot of the momentum and a lot of the juice that you had built up. And so that's what's really frustrating about this game. And maybe it's good that it's happening now. Like, I guess I would rather have a really dumb loss be in non-conference play, and maybe you pick up a dumb win against Baylor or TCU that helps you in conference play, and all of a sudden you're looking better. And also, like now, these two Baylor and TCU games, like they're both must win in my opinion, because at Utah, like I don't see that happening for ASU at all. Like I just no. And again, like I said that about Kansas State last year, but like Utah looks way better, and Texas Tech is just going to be a difficult team to beat. They have a lot of talent. And then the rest of the league, like Arizona looks a lot better. Colorado looks decent. West Virginia doesn't look good. Iowa State's going to be difficult. The game against Houston, I've talked about that. Like that's going to be a difficult game. So like those final 5 games after that 4-game stretch, like they're not going to be a walk in the park either. And so it's just, I would love to see a dominant win next week. I'm not expecting it. I think ASU will win. I'm going to say 35-24. ASU is 15.5-point favorites. I'm expecting Texas State to cover. I think ASU can like get the job done and look great. And it would be awesome if they just beat Texas State. They won like 52-21. That'd be awesome. Then you can go into Baylor and be like, okay, like we figured some things out. Texas State is not a complete pushover either. So like that's why they're not going to win 52-21. I think they win 35-24. So that would be great, but I just don't see it. I just like they need to prove it to me. Like I need to see Sam Leavitt really play a clean game. I need to see a more complete defensive game. I need to see more pass catchers get involved. So that's kind of the Texas State talk. They have a different quarterback now in Brad Jackson. They're kind of more of a passing team. They still have some of the guys from their team last year, but their defense just isn't that good. So that should help ASU. And yeah, I don't want to hear any talk about like, oh, like pseudo shaming the fan base for not showing up in numbers that you would like, or being mad with people. And this is just to the general like audience of ASU media, fans, like being upset that people are really mad. Like no one should be doxing players or tweeting it. Obviously, like no one should be like going over the line, but just being upset, like you should be upset as a fan. That was an awful garbage way to lose a game. And yeah, I don't know. I just like, I just don't want to sit here and tell you everything's going to be okay, because I can't, and I don't feel that way. So, all right, that'll be it for this episode. Go ASU next week. I think they win. If they don't, oh boy, if they don't beat Texas State, I think they will. Final score prediction, I got 35-24. So go Devils. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice.